Good evening, everyone. So welcome to this Zoom call on NRI services. Thank you all for joining. So how we'll do, like first I'll just start with the presentation with the basic and then we can take question and answers. Okay, so let's begin. So first question, we should understand who is NRI, non-resident individual. So NRI is a citizen of India who has spent less than 182 days of the financial year in India. So in short, like if a person is abroad for more than 6 months, okay, then he's taken as a NRI. So this is a thumb rule. This is a like income tax rule, which is like applicable. Okay. Now, a person of Indian origin, this is also taken as a NRI. Okay. So here, what is the criteria for a person of Indian origin? Person, a citizen of any country other than citizen of Bangladesh or Pakistan is deemed to be person of Indian origin, that is PIO, if he at any time held an Indian passport, he or either of his parents or any of his grandparents was a citizen of India, a spouse of an Indian citizen or a person of Indian origin is also deemed to be a PIO. So what it says basically, like even if a person is born abroad, okay, he's a citizen of foreign country, but still he can be a NRI provided like few criteria is met that his parents or grandparents was born in India, okay, who was citizen of India, or even spouse. So like even if an Indian is married to a foreigner, then that foreigner also tends to come as a PIO, become a PIO, and he also comes as an NRI. And he can also start investing with us. He can open a trading account and demat account. So this is what it is called, a PIO. So and one more, this is OCI. If a person is an OCI, overseas citizen of India, then also he is taken under NRI. He is citizen of foreign country like a US, and he's like, so basically he's like a dual citizen kind of thing. So then also that also can be taken as a NRI. So it's not necessary that if you say that, okay, if a client is a foreign citizen, so he cannot be a NRI. So that's not the thing. So these are the three things, like he can be a PIO, OCI, still he can be NRI. So only thing is that like if a person doesn't have meet any of this criteria, then he'll be taken as a foreign national. Okay, and then there is a separate route like a foreign portfolio investor. That's the FPI route. That's a separate one. So only in case of FPI, we have to go in that route. Otherwise, everything can come under NRI. So we have to understand in NRI, there are like sub-status. One is NRE and one is NRO. And now what is NRE, NRO? We keep hearing that. So NRE stands for non-resident external account. Okay, where this source of money, which is coming in India, is foreign. Okay, then it is taken as a NRE funds. Okay, and if the source of funds is Indian, then it's taken as a NRO. So it's non-resident external account and non-resident ordinary account. So now NRE is very clear, like source of fund is foreign. So then it is taken as NRE. But what is NRO? Why? So when like what happens, like if a person before becoming NRI, he had some asset, okay, some cash or some stocks. So that stock will have to come under NRO. Okay, so that is one criteria. Like, or second thing, if he inherits some from his parents, some asset, okay, that also shares and all or funds has to come under NRO. So if a person has any of this thing criteria, then he can open a NRO account and stocks can come under that NRO. Otherwise, if the source of money is foreign country, like foreign bank account and all that, it's coming from there, then the person has to go under NRE account. Money can be, funds can be transferred from NRE to NRO, but from NRO to NRE, it's not possible. Yeah. Now coming to like each category, NRE also there is like, if you want to open an account for stock, like for secondary market transaction, there is like, we have to open an NRE savings account, okay, and an NRE PIS account. So now what is this PIS account? PIS account stands for Portfolio Investment Scheme Account. It's a dedicated NRI RBI approved bank account, okay, which should be only used for buying, selling of shares. So for this PIS account, it's a dedicated account, bank account only open for stock market, okay, for secondary market. So in this account, only 4 transactions will come. From savings to PIS, money can flow. From PIS to savings, for purchase, PIS account will be debited. For like selling, PIS account will be credited. So apart from this 4 transaction, nothing can come in the PIS because all this account is reported, okay, reported to the bank and bank reports to RBI. So in this, all the personal transaction like rent and all that, all personal things, it has to move in savings. Even for that matter, even dividends will go in your savings account. Your IPO transaction will go in under savings account. Okay, so apart from secondary market, anything what your investment you are doing, any transaction you are doing, it has to go under savings account. Okay, so now coming to NRO. So if you see over here, we need a savings account, and here we have not mentioned PIS account, we have mentioned special account. So here, this is a recent change which has happened. Earlier, PIS account was mandatory for even NRO account, but now a rule has been changed. So here we don't require to open a PIS account, but now we require to open a special account, which is nothing but somewhat like a PIS account. But only thing is that we don't need to take a RBI permission for it. Okay, so that's the only difference. One more difference in NRO special account is that for NRE, there is some restricted stock, like if their limit, each company has a NRI FI limit. If that is reached, an NRE investor cannot buy that stock. Okay, but for NRO, there is no such restriction. So with this PIS, that restriction also gone for NRO. But still, we need to have a special account. So other rules still apply, like you can't do intraday and all that. That will come to that later. But this restriction of buying any stock, that has gone. So you can buy as an NRO, you can buy any stocks. So that is there. Now coming to what are the different services we offer for NRI. One is like equity broking that we do. We have a portfolio management services that we can do. Mutual funds, insurance, IPO. So these are the basic like what we do for all our NRI. So NRI are allowed to do all this investment. Now coming to what are the requirements for NRI trading account? So one thing is that it's very like how we have for resident also, KYC is mandatory. We have to do it. Okay. We have to do a FATCA, that is Foreign Account Tax Compliance Act for US, and Common Reporting Standard, that is CRS for any country which is not US. Yeah. So one more thing is which is there is TIN number, like how we have a PAN number that is required for all NRI, tax identification number, what we call, like for US it is called Social Security number. Okay, so each country has a different unique TIN identification number. Okay, so that is mandatory. PAN card, passport. Passport is mandatory for all NRIs. Okay, if he is a OCI or a PIO, which we discussed, we need that PIO card or a OCI card. Foreign address proof is mandatory. That could be a driver license or a bank statement or any utility bill like an electricity bill and all. But that should be a latest one, not more than 2 months old. Passport size photograph. Here we are mentioning like PIS permission letter is mandatory. As we discussed, like for NRE, it is required. And for NRO also, a special account is there. So that is also a letter which is there, which is required. So bank usually gives a welcome letter kind of thing, which has all the details like your permission number, account number, MICR number, everything is there in that. So that is that letter would be required. Aadhaar card is not mandatory for NRI. So now what are the few things which we should know before starting any investment for NRI? Okay, so we have divided into pre-trading rules and post-trading. So first is that an NRI should open a new NRE PIS portfolio investment scheme account, as we discussed, or NRO special bank account with a designated bank account. So now we are talking about this designated bank. That means which we have already impaneled with it. So as Prabhudas Lilladher, we have impaneled with 6 banks. One is SDFC Bank, Axis, Kotak, IndusInd, Yes Bank, and IDBI. So we have impaneled with 6 banks. Okay, because what happens for NRI, we have to do the reporting and all that. So all that we have to impanel. So we have to impanel with them. Yeah. So these are the 6 banks which we have already done. So any of the 6 banks we can use for investment for clients' investment. Okay. So a client can open only one PIS bank account at any point of time. So this is very important. Like how we have one PAN card. So for here also, investor cannot have a multiple PIS account because it's a RBI approved bank account. Okay, so we cannot have a multiple PIS account. Like for example, client already have a he's dealing with some broker with HDFC Bank, and now he comes to Prabhudas Lilladher and says, okay, I will open with Kotak. So it doesn't work like that. So he has to have one PIS account only. So if at all, like he has a HDFC Bank PIS and he is not comfortable for some reason, he has to close that account. He has to take a no objection certificate from the bank and then transfer all the stock which is reported to the new bank. That can be done, but at any point he cannot have multiple PIS account. This is applicable for NRE. The PIS bank should be exclusively be used for only for investment in secondary market transaction. As we have mentioned, it cannot be used for anything apart from buying, selling of shares in secondary market. For NRO and NRE, we need to have a separate trading and depository account. Okay, so we can have a separate code. We can have a separate code for NRE, NRO. We can have both the accounts also if we want. Okay, so that is possible. Before purchasing shares, investor can check NRI restricted list in plclients.com. We have already, like before market opens, before 9:15, we update this list in PL clients also, that you can always check that, or you can check in NSDL CDSL website also. So there are around like 45 scripts which are there. Okay, so like what happened, if it reaches near the limit, if the limit is 48%, if it's like around 47%, then RBI placed that stock under the restricted list, then you cannot buy. And later, like whenever, like in few days, if someone sells and that limit, holding limit goes down, like then again they open it for purchase and all. Okay, this is only applicable for purchase. Selling you can do anytime. Okay, intraday not allowed for NRI because it is taken as a speculation, and speculation is not allowed for NRI. Investor should have a clear cash balance in NRE PIS or NRO special account before placing order. Margin not required. Like how we need to keep margin like 20%, 30% for a resident account. Here margin system doesn't work. Here we have to keep a clear balance in the PIS account. So what we do, like last day balance, closing balance, bank balance, we upload in based on that, we give limit first thing in the morning, 9:15, before market opens. So this is how, so a client has to keep balance in the PIS account. This is a rule of RBI and all. So this is, we have to follow that. Yeah. So here what happens once we give exposure to client, like first thing in the morning, 9:15, it is not a real time. Like for example, as I mentioned, it's a last day closing balance. Okay, if a client transfer of money after 9:30, then client has to inform us, because that limit won't be like a real time. He'll say, okay, I have transferred, but where's my exposure? So if that doesn't work, he has to send us a mail and saying that he has transferred, or he can send us a bank statement or something like that, so that we can check it at our end and we can give the limit. So this is how it works for the limit thing. Second thing, he has to have a clear stock credit in the demat account before selling. It cannot happen that he has bought today and he say, okay, market has gone up, I want to sell the stock tomorrow. It doesn't work like that. Till he doesn't get the delivery of the stock in his demat account, till that time, he is not allowed to sell. So it's very clear. Before clear credit of cash balance, he cannot buy. Before stock credit, he cannot sell. So this is like some rules which needs to be kept in mind. So post-trading rules now, whatever trade we do for the investor, within 24 hours, we have to report that to the bank. In this case, we'll be doing, everything is centralized. So everything, all this transaction, what you do, ELHO will be reporting on your client's behalf, okay, within 24 hours. But you should know the rule that 24 hours, we have to report that all the transaction which is done. If a purchase sale transaction has not reported to the bank, then the transaction is not considered valid and the investor will not get the credit for sell trade. So this has to be kept in mind. So all the trade, all the transaction, what you have done, it has to be reported. Even if you are doing some off-market transaction from some other account and all that, just see that everything is reported, because what happens, you feel that, okay, stock has come over here and whenever I sell, I'll get the credit. It doesn't work like that. It has to be reported, because what happens for NRI, TDS, tax deducted at source, is there. Okay, that is applicable. So if you don't report the purchase price, how will bank deduct the TDS? So this is very important. You have to keep it in mind that In fact, like even if you're doing a IPO and all that, like you said, okay, I have bought IPO and all that, you have to report it like a allotment letter you have to give, you have to fill up one annexure and give it to the bank. So this you have to keep in mind that everything has to be reported. So later on, you should not face that delay of payment and all that. Okay. One more important point is that purchase and sale amount cannot be net off. Like for example, you have bought something for 10 lakhs and then you sold off for something for 10 lakhs. You bought Reliance Industry and sold Hindustan Lever. So it's not that your commitment is zero. So for purchase, client has to pay. For sell, broker will pay. So it's a bill to bill transaction. It doesn't work like it will be netting off or all that. Yeah. So all this thing, basic things you have to keep in mind before you start any transaction. As taxation also, one should know what is the NR. It is somewhat like a Indian resident taxation only, but only difference is that, as I mentioned, there's a TDS. Here, what happens, we pay at the end of the year, but here, whenever there is a capital gain, or then it will be deducted at source. So for example, like if you bought something for 100 rupees and then you sold it for 150, on that 50 rupees, there will be, if it's a short term, 15% taxation will be, TDS will be deducted, and then it will get credited in the bank account of the client. So settlement cycle is T+2. End of the day, client will get the credit after the TDS deduction. So what is that TDS? Like for TDS, it's 15% for short term and 10% for long term. So this is basically same like a resident only. Only thing is difference is that there's a TDS over here. Okay. Sale rate is adjusted first in, first out. It's same like resident. Yeah. Now coming to derivatives. So here we don't need a PIS account. Okay. And one more thing, very important, it can be only done through NRO. NRE, it is not allowed for any NRI investor. This is very important. Only for NRO substatus, you can do in derivatives. And for that, we don't need a PIS bank account. Okay. Funds for dealing future and option must be through NRO savings because PIS won't be there. We would require a custodian for F&O trading because we are not a professional clearing member for NRI derivatives clearing. So we recommend Orbis custodian for that F&O clearing and settlement. Okay. And for that, we also have to have a custodian participant code. That's a mandatory thing for derivatives. So these are the basic things what you need to know about derivatives thing. Okay. Here, first of all, you need a custodian for clearing and settlement. Okay. So that needs to be done. We have to get a CP code, custodian participant code. That is also there. We don't need a PIS. Okay. And it has to be done only in NRO account. So these are the few things which you have to keep in mind before you start any derivatives account. Okay. Now coming to, we'll take mutual funds also. Mutual funds we can do like there also rules are same like KYC, FAT card, PIN number, PAN card, all that is there. KYC needs to be done. We can do offline or online. Online we can do through NSE NMF2 platform. It's a very good platform. Okay, once you enroll the client, then you can just do online. You don't need any paperwork and all that. Okay, only one criteria has to be met is that KYC should be there. Okay, so if a person doesn't have a KYC, then online mode cannot work. Once we have a KYC, then we can start. Okay, so this is one thing we have to keep in mind. There are some basically few restrictions for US and Canada based investor. Apart from that, there is no restriction. So for US, Canada, some AMC, they don't accept funds. Okay, for a US based or Canada based NRIs. Okay, mutual funds investment should be done through NRE savings account only, no PIS. Again, I will say that. Okay, a few fund house who accepts US and Canada funds is Nippon, Birla, SBI, UTI, L&T, Sundaram, and Parag Parikh. So these are the few fund house they accept. They don't have any restriction in accepting that. But other mutual funds, AMC like ICICI, HDFC, they do accept, but they insist that investor who's investing US based and all, they have to be in India while investing, and they have to sign declaration saying that AMC has not approached them, but client has come on their own. So some few procedure needs to be done. And the most important thing is that client has to be in India while investing. But in this, which I have mentioned here, they don't have any such criteria. NRI taxation also for mutual fund is somewhat similar. There will be like a 15% short-term TDS on the short-term cap gains and long-term cap gain 10%. And other than that, equity or any other funds, 30% short-term and 20% with indexation. So this is a TDS which will be deducted. IPO, coming to IPO, basically IPO, again, we have to do through NRE and NRO savings for NRI. US, Canada, they are restricted for IPO. They cannot do it. As I mentioned, that IPO transaction also has to be reported to the designated bank, because tomorrow when you sell that IPO, then there should not be like, okay, you have not reported the purchase transaction, IPO transaction. So for that, you have to give allotment letter, as well as there is one annexure for reporting IPOs and all. So that also needs to be done. So for IPO, you have to keep in mind, even if you have done IPO, you have to report that stock also. For NRI, you have to do directly, client has to do directly to their bank account. Okay, so they can log into the bank account, and from there, they can always do this IPO. Yeah, so basically for contact details, I have mentioned for my team, like any query you have regarding this NRI and all, you can reach Umesh Kochre, Prashant Mengle, and of course me, anytime you want, okay? And we'll be happy to help you, yeah? So now this is a brief presentation, and now we can take question and answer.
I request all the participants to please ask questions on chat or in the Q&A section. And Pankaj, there are 1 or 2 questions in the Q&A section.
Sure, sure. And from my experience, like few questions which I always get it, I'll just cover that, and then we can take other questions also. So one question about which I always get is like whether PIS bank account is mandatory for opening NRO account. As I mentioned, like special account is there, but it's somewhat like a PIS. So we have to open a special account, because as per the SEBI guidelines, what they have said that, okay, PIS permission is not required, but the money of NRO account has to be credited only after deduction of all the required taxes. So this clause is there, this criteria is there. So because of that, special account is mandatory, because otherwise how the bank will deduct TDS and all that. So it has to be reported, all the rules remain same. Only thing is that advantage is that you don't have that restriction of buying any stocks, or like now you can buy any stocks. So that is the advantage what NRO has it. Apart from that, everything remains same. You can't do intraday, you can't do this. Okay, so all that remains same. So this is one thing which is there. Which are the few banks which we are impaneled and all that. If we have some other bank, what to do? Some client says, okay, I have SBI, I have this. So what happens now? Like here, it's not like that. Like now we have taken like few of the top banks which are there for NRI services. Like as I said, like Axis, SDFC, they are like market leader. And like getting like other banks, we don't really recommend, because somewhat like service wise and all that, they are not that so we request investor to open this 6 accounts, any of the 6 banks. So most of them, it's covered over here. Like majority of all the banks are covered over here. Okay, so this is like this question I always get. Can a client have both NRE and NRO account? Yes, they can have both NRE and NRO account if they want, but they have if it's required, yeah. So if a person is having is transferring from foreign bank account, then I would insist that you open only NRE account. But if he has some Indian asset and all that, and then of course he can go for NRO. Yeah. How to transfer funds from foreign bank account to NRI? So like basically bank detail, it can be done through a wire transfer. It's a very simple process. We can give all the bank details of your savings. Money will go in savings account only. It cannot go directly in PIS. First, it has to go in savings, and from there, it has to be transferred to PIS account. And whenever he wants to take it back also, he has to first transfer from PIS to savings, and then savings to foreign bank account. Yeah. So yeah, NRE, NRO, is it fully, can we take the money back if at all? For NRE, it's fully repatriable, because thing is that like it's a foreign money, source of fund is foreign, you can take it back. But for NRO, it is not fully repatriable. I'm using word not fully repatriable. You can repatriate to the tune of $1 million in one financial year. But for that, you have to give a CA certificate saying that all the tax has been paid. Okay, it's called 15 CA-CV. So that has to be provided. And after that, you can, NRO money can also be repatriated to the tune of $1 million. So this is also, it's possible. So accordingly, we can do that. Can NRI participate in right issue and buyback and all that? So right issue, one can go for that. Yeah, but right issue application has to be done through the bank account. Okay, that is there. Buyback, it can be done. Contract notice generated, we can report that. So that also can be done. One more very like this question I get every time is for NRI purchase transaction, does client needs to keep credit in the PL ledger? So because in resident, we keep a credit in the PL ledger. In this case, as I mentioned, you don't need to keep in the PL ledger. You have to keep in the PIS account. So whenever there is a debit, like we can like now, we have like a power of attorney we take from SDFC bank, or if it's other banks, we take something called letter of authority, where whenever trade is done, client has given authority to the bank that they can debit client's account and credit broker's account. So either of these two things we have it, like either we have a power of attorney or letter of authority. So for SDFC, it's a power of attorney kind of thing. And for all other bank, it's letter of authority. If some client says, okay, they are not comfortable giving a power of attorney, go with other banks like Axis, Kotak, Yes Bank and all. So there we don't need a POA. Yeah. So you don't need to keep money in the ledger because that's not allowed. Because thing is that the payment has to be done as per the exact amount of the contract note. So before you know, how can you transfer that amount, right? So first you do the transaction, keep the money in the PIS, and then you can like now, once you place the order, then we will debit the account based on the POA or a letter of authority. So this is a basic question what we always get. Can we apply for IPO? Yeah, so IPO, as I said, NRI can apply for IPO, but it has to be done through their client's bank account. It cannot be done through PL vertical. If any person staying in foreign due to job for 1 year, can he be treated as NRI? So basically, as I said, if he's there for more than 6 months, okay, then he's as per the tax law, he's been taken as a NRI. But I would say instead of we taking a call, client should always check with their chartered accountant what's the tax status and all that, because this is just a thumb rule, but there are other rules also which determines whether a person is NRI or not. Like in last 4 years, whether he was there in 365 days, last 1 year, 60 days he was there. So there are other criteria also. So I would say not to take a call whether you should not decide whether a person is NRI or not. Let the client ask his chartered accountant, gets like na detailed thing, and then they can decide the status on that. Yeah.
Pankaj, if you can just maybe speak a minute about brokerage charges, etc. Typically, what is ideal?
Yeah. So basically what happens, like for NRI, the brokerage charges is usually higher compared to the resident one, because resident is just buying, selling and all that. But here what happens, all the back office is taken care by the broker. We are doing the reporting, we are debiting the client's account, all that thing is there. So usually like the brokerage, delivery brokerage ranges between 0.60. So 0.60 to 0.75 to kind of thing. That's what I would suggest. That's the right one. But depending on the business and all that, you can take a call. But I would say you should not like charge like a 0.10 or 0.20, because for NRI service level, like a lot of service needs to be given. So I would say anything around like 0.60 is a good one for the delivery one.
Pankaj, there are a couple of more questions in the Q&A section.
Okay. Can a single PIS used in a multiple trading account? So here, like Ravi Godia is asking, can a single PIS can be used for multiple trading account? I think like what he's trying to ask, like if he has a multiple broker, like someone who's doing with Prabhudas Lilladher and some same client is wants to do with some other broker also. See, it is possible, but thing is that I will not suggest that, because what happens, it's like its account is linked over here, okay, to Prabhudas Lilladher. So balance and all that we give based on that. If that balance is used by some other broker also, then it's a problem. Like for example, and second thing is like we have to report all the stocks. And if that PIS is handled by some other broker, and if they don't report properly, then we are also getting stuck. So you have some purchase, some Reliance Industry and all that, and that is not reported properly from other broker. And then you start trading over here with some other stock and then you sell. So here also we'll have a problem. So PIS is one. So if PIS is getting stuck, then whole trading account will get stuck. So I would suggest not to do that. One way out for this kind of thing, if you have a multiple broker, I would suggest you go with HDFC Bank. Okay, they have something called extension account. Okay, where the PIS permission remains same, but under that you can have multiple PIS account. So here what I'm saying, permission remains one. Okay, so PIS account is one, but just for that simplicity, they are giving you two bank accounts. So one can be linked to some other broker and one can be linked to Prabhudas Lilladher. So here both will work independently. Of course, at the top, reporting is same. So what I mean by that, for calculation of TDS purpose, it is one. Like for example, someone has bought Reliance Industry at 1,000 rupees, okay, with some other broker, okay, and then you buy Reliance Industry through PL at 1,500, and then through PL you sell it for 1,700. For the bank, purchase price is 1,000 rupees and selling price is 1,700. They will not understand, okay, who has bought, whether purchase was done through Prabhudas or purchase was done through XYZ broker. They will take as a one client, okay. So reporting part remains one, but all the balances and all that will be separate. So I would suggest if there is a multiple broker, go with SDFC. They have a good facility of SDFC extension account, and that is with SDFC, yeah. And second bank, I think they who have just started is IndusInd Bank. So these are the two banks you can keep in mind if you want to go with anything, something like this kind of case. So where you have multiple broker. Okay, what the usually TAT in opening account of NRI, which all department it passes through. See, TAT, if you see, like, as you know, like basically we have to open a bank account and all that. So assuming everything is come over here, like, okay, all the forms are there, trading account, PI. So bank will take around 5 to 6 days because of PI's account permission and all that. 5-6 days, 5 to 6 working days that will be required. We will take around 1 or 2 days for setting up the account. And then we have to set up the power of attorney and all that if it's the SDFC thing. Otherwise, you can say like in 7 to 10 days maximum, I would say we can open an account.
And Pankaj, if anybody has any queries, which email ID should they write to?
Yeah, we have a email ID nridesk@plindia.com. So they can send it on that because that's a team NRI team ID, or like a specific which I have mentioned, you can separately send. But I would say NRI desk is a simple to remember. Whichever query you have, NRI desk is there. And if you have any specific query, you can always call us.
Superb. I think that's about it, Pankaj. Thank you so much for taking this session. I hope it was useful to all the listeners. Like Pankaj said, if you have any queries, please feel free to write at nridesk@plindia.com. Thanks everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.